AM. Let's get it started in high. Let's get it started in here. We're going live for mock drafts. Say hoo hoo ha ha. Let's get hoo hoo in here. If anybody's joining me, I'm sorry. You have to listen to me sing here. What's up, guys? How's it going? Just getting the mock going here. Let's see how we sound, dude. Ooh, there we go. Not sounding horrendous, but I mean, not going to quit my day job either, so we'll see how she goes. But yeah, let's get this rolling, guys. Welcome to a random Fishing Elephant Tuesday mock draft. We're going to be hanging out here, boys. Just obviously mocking the NFL draft as you are going to see to this direction. Here, I had to get myself lined up. But yeah, we're going to be going through, just kind of getting some input, getting this shared around here. I want to hear what people think as far as trades, as far as what you really think is going to happen in this upcoming draft. We're getting closer to the season, but obviously nothing that happens is set in stone. There's still trades. There's still a lot of finishing to be done to these standings. But some of us just can't wait, and we just want to get down to it. So I'm going to give it about a couple of minutes here, share this around on socials, maybe get some people going. Maybe I'm just going to talk to myself. Who knows? But we're going to mock in 5. We are live. Boop, 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 boop. So I guess my big question here is, what do the Bears do? What do the Bears here? Rick is joining us. What is up to my dog, Rick? I know he's in a chat that I was talking with some of the boys in, and while we were talking about, do the Bears trade the first? And Rick here is my only person, and Rick thinks that the Giants trade for the first overall pick, which is interesting. They're sitting at the 8th spot right now. They've got Daniel Jones under contract for a lot of money. A lot of money. So, I don't know. I could see it, especially like if they end up firing Daboll, just like, they're like, all right, we're going to scrap this. We're going to try back over. I don't even know if the GM stays. I think he would, but, you never know in these type of things. Sometimes, there's surprise firings, surprise hirings. I never thought that Josh McDaniels would actually get fired midseason. I applaud Mark Davis for it, but I never thought it would happen. But we are kicking here. Where's Jace at, Rick? I know he said he would pop up in on this. Let's tag him. If not, I might just have to go with Rick's suggestion. We might have to have the Giants trade up, which that would be ugly. But he's a Cowboys fan, so he hates the Giants. Like I'm also thinking you're a little biased there, Rick. You might be just smidgy, teensy-weensy bit biased. Small bit. Trying to encourage the Giants' downfall, which, hey, I would do the same thing in division. I would do the same thing. Some other moves that could potentially be looking to happen while we're still waiting on some people to pop up in here is, I know my most popular move right now would actually be the Patriots going from number 2 to number 1. Now, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, like just a one-stop move, but to get your quarterback of the future, and if they believe that Caleb Williams really is that much better, I don't know. I could see it going that way, but we're just going to get going on this draft here, and I'm just going to pick a random trade to do. So we got the Bears. Got the Patriots at number 2. Maybe looking to secure their quarterback, or maybe they like both. Ooh, Andrew Corbin, you are up in the mix. What's up, buddy? Rick gives me a ha-ha for that. Andrew, what are we thinking as far as the Patriots go here? Do the Patriots trade for the number 1 pick? I'll give you a second to jump back in and respond here. I don't know if the Patriots make that trade. Drake May has been shooting up boards. All right, well, we will take that from our resident Patriots fan. You know what, Rick, you're tuning in here. Let's do it, buddy. We're gonna do a million mocks anyway, so why not? Let's see here. Let's say the Giants go with the 8th pick for the first. Another first rounder for Caleb Williams. And they don't let us do like a third first rounder, or else I think 3 first rounders, honestly, to even at number 8, where you are still in the top 10. I still think last year we saw, what was the Panthers trade? It was 2 firsts, which has got them this first, and then DJ Moore as well. So unless there's a player that anyone really sees like the Giants giving up here, I don't know. Rick said, fuck the Giants. All right, I think you're being biased here, Rick. We're going to pull the offer off the table. What else do we got here? Washington Commanders, maybe. Maybe the Commanders. Just kidding. I think Sam Howell's their quarterback of the future. You got the Bears sitting at number 5. I don't want to be too biased here, but I think at number 6 here we see a very obvious team who needs a quarterback. Like I said, I might be a little bit biased here, but I think the Raiders, are going to be looking to make moves. There was ideas that they were in the mix last year for C.J. Stroud, but I already said I was going to love you, Rick, so let's just do it. All right. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and ideally probably a third first, 2 in place of these seconds, but we're just going to rock it. Boom, first trade. The Giants are going up, and they're getting a quarterback as we start the 2024 Fishing Elephant mock draft. And this is the first one I've done, so at least public here. Andrew Corbine says Marvin Harrison Jr. could go 1 here unless the Bears get an ungodly deal like they did last year. And that's my thought, is I think eventually someone will pay for Caleb Williams. Like I said, last year, it's starting to come out that on top of the DJ Moore trade, that there was an offer from the Raiders that included 2 or 3 firsts. It was a pretty juicy offer, but they felt like getting Justin Fields, a true number 1 receiver, was actually it. And see, that was my thought there. Rick said Raiders trade Adams in a first. There's been a lot of talks right here at number 7, the Jets. Now, the Jets, I don't know if a number 7 pick is worth Adams. If we were to get a first rounder for Devontae, I think it would have to be like sending a second or a third with Devontae back for that first. And then how likely are the Jets, going to do that? I mean, Devontae's value was definitely more a couple years ago, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We already kind of made the trade, so I'm going to stick it out right now, and we're going to get Caleb Williams at 101 for the New York Giants. And I don't know why you projected this trade, Rick. I feel like this is a bad move for the Cowboys, because Caleb Williams is great. They need a lot more pieces around him, but it's Caleb Williams. Like, he's QB1 for a reason. So that is the first pick off the board. Rick picking Caleb Williams for the Giants here. Once again, what happens with Daniel Jones, the world may never know. Maybe he gets shipped off to, I'd say Cleveland, but they already did their bad quarterback contract get with Deshaun. So, yeah. Number 2, though, I'd like to wait this one out. But I think, honestly, as Andrew Corbine, our resident Patriots fan, said it best, Drake May's been rising up draft boards. Let's go with Drake May at number 2. All right, number 3, we have the Arizona Cardinals here. I agree with a lot of their team needs. I think the defense is starting to look better, but I do think they are pretty firmly planted, like right here, at this 3 spot. Washington's 4-9, still looking good, still looking like they want to compete. The Bears, I mean, the Panthers are garbage. The Patriots are garbage. I think they are by far the 2 worst teams right now, so I don't see the Cardinals actually getting much better than this number 3 pick. And if they do, they're in a great position to get Kyler, his wide receiver of the future. Let's go with Marvin Harrison Jr. That one's, I think, pretty no doubt here, too. I know Rick Burleson. Ooh, is he, though? Maybe Caleb Williams is a bust. Maybe, but not likely. But, yeah, Andrew Corbine said Drake May, no doubt. I think the first 3 picks here are going to be the best 3 players in the draft. You got Caleb Williams, you got Drake May, 2 great quarterbacks, should be franchise day 1 starting quarterbacks, and then Marvin Harrison Jr., if he declares. He has not made it official yet, so that's the big one there. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to declare? But moving on here to number 4, I think this is where it starts to get interesting, because you have Washington. Ideally, they've found their quarterback of the future in Sam Howell. Running back room has some talent in there. You got Brian Robinson Jr., you got Antonio Gibson, and I don't think they need to make a move at receiver, obviously, because they're incredibly deep. They got Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. You could argue Brock Bowers here. Let's see what Logan Thomas is at for his contract right now. That would be probably my big hinge point. Is Logan Thomas under contract after this year? And do you keep him when you could really upgrade that team? So Logan Thomas right now looks like he's on Washington for another year. They can get rid of him with a minimal dead cap hit, it looks like, so he might be gone in the offseason. That's an interesting one. Also, I think at this point we have seen Sam Howell. He might still be on pace. I've kind of been terrible at keeping up with this stat, but I know after 6 or 7 weeks, he was on pace to break David Carr's record for most sacked quarterback. That speaks to me that I don't care who you have in that room, you need alignment. And in my opinion, you need the best lineman. So as I might butcher this name here, I'm going to go with Olimayua Fashanu out of Penn State. He's the best tackle in the class. I actually had him as one of the best tackles in last year's class before he decided to return back to Penn State. I think he only made his resume stronger. They had hard games against Ohio State, Michigan all year. He put up a good performance against him. I think you see some flaws, but when don't you with like a 22-year-old kid? So at this point, yeah, I think the Commanders, thank you, Andrew. He says PFF has Commanders at 24th O-line. Looks like a correct choice. I thought so too. I've had them going tackle in a lot of mocks here recently just because I don't think tight end's that big of a need. But now we're coming back to number 5. We got the Bears actually on the clock for the first time. So now in our mock, they are picking 5 and they are picking number 8. So at 5 here, you got a bunch of needs, but we kind of solidified in this draft that they're sticking with Justin Fields for the future. Now, a couple of picks I've liked for these guys so far. They already have Cole Kmet, so I don't like Brock Bowers. They traded for Montez Sweat, and while they still have Yannick Ngakoue on only like a 1-year deal, I hesitate to take Latu here because I just don't think edge is their top need. Honestly, the Commanders, I was also back and forth between an edge rusher too since they got rid of theirs. However, Fashanu is arguably the second or third most important position in a franchise left tackle there. But the Bears, they're building something a little bit on the line there. I know they got Darnell Wright last year to go ahead and fill in on the right side. Could use an upgrade here at offensive line, but I think when you're looking at this team as a whole and what the best value is, I guess maybe I'll gauge the field here. Does anybody have a pick? Maybe we'll go to the peanut gallery. So we're sitting here at number 5. Good options would include getting Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Let's see, Bears left tackle. I'm space cadetting today. Oh, Jones. They have a really young line. They might just want to let it ride, too. And then let's see here. I just saw that Corbine popped in with a comment. Opening back up my screen here. I think it would be another offensive weapon. I really do like Malik Neighbors. I really do. So you know what, Andrew? I'm going to pop you in on there. Neighbors to me is by far wide receiver 1 in any other class. He reminds me of Stephon Diggs. When you're talking like just a complete skill set, he's got strength for what's probably a medium wide receiver at about 6 foot 190. He's got strength, speed, quick twitch, route running. He's got great hands. I mean, the dude's an absolute dog when it comes to getting the football. So, yeah, Andrew, we are thinking just alike there. He said it too. He's like, Malik Neighbors would be wide receiver 1 in any other class. And I'd put that even up against like the last classes. Like we're talking like guys like Garrett Wilson coming out. I mean, I would put him up there with the likes of probably Garrett Wilson. He deserves to be a top 5 pick here. I think he is a lock to go top 10. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are to my boys here. We are to the Raiders at number 6 currently. It's been a rough go of it. Obviously, losing 3-0 this weekend to the Vikings was not fun. It's pretty much firmly put us in the position of, hey, we're not going to make the playoffs this year, and we need a quarterback going forward. So I go to the quarterback screen. And would you look at that? We got a couple of options here. I'm going to ignore Shadur Sanders because I think he's going back to school. I think he's going to return. He's going to solidify his draft stock, and he's going to be QB1 in next year's draft class. However, we have some great options. You got Bo Nix, you got Jaden Daniels, and you got Michael Penix Jr. It's a three-headed monster there. PFF has Bo Nix as the best quarterback in the situation, Jaden Daniels being the second best and current Heisman Trophy winner, and Michael Penix, obviously, I think he finished runner-up to the Heisman and still has a chance to win a Natty. So what do you guys think here? I know I got a couple of viewers hanging out watching with us. What do you guys think for the Raiders? I want a homer pick. I know who I want to pick, but maybe we'll leave this open to the peanut gallery a second. Boom, chicka, boom, chicka. The autumn wind needs a quarterback. More importantly, I guess, where do we go at head coach from here is probably my biggest tiff. But we'll keep it rolling on here. As a Raiders fan, I'm going to lock this one in. I think Bo Nix is a great quarterback. I think Michael Penix is a great quarterback, but you see the swerve coming. Jaden Daniels, the ceiling is there. I don't know if we trade Devontae. I don't know if we re-sign Josh Jacobs. What I do know, though, is we need a quarterback, and I like this kid the most. Boom, Jaden Daniels. And then moving on to number 7, the New York Jets. What could they possibly need? I know Rodgers likes Mekhi Becton. I know this line is hurting 7 ways from Sunday. I know a lot of the big problem is injuries. They haven't had consistency on that line. So, well, tackle is a huge need. I don't know if left tackle is a first-round need with Mekhi Becton there. Because I know they still really like him. They really want to invest in their first-round picks. It's really going to depend what this regime does. But also, I don't think they draft a quarterback. Rodgers, after this Achilles, has kind of proven that he's at least going to give him next year. And while it'd be smart to get somebody behind him, maybe you're still delusional and thinking Zach Wilson works. But so far, defensive interior, I feel like whoever the Jets D-line coach is, that man constantly can make, not nobodies, but like mid-grade players play great, and that defense has been phenomenal. So while investing into the defense might be more to code, I'm going to go with Joe Alt from Notre Dame here, and they need a tackle. I think Alt's got the playing experience. I know Becton at one point did play right tackle, so you could possibly move him back there, but you need to protect Rodgers. If you're not going to go with the quarterback, which I don't think they do, you need to get him some protection. He's old. Like, you can't have your 39-year-old quarterback, 40-year-old quarterback be running around here, especially on an Achilles that, well, it's remarkable what he's doing. You still got to protect him. Plain and simple. Point made. We're selecting a tackle. And now we go to the Bears' second pick. As we flash back up, Malik Nabers was that first option there. Getting a weapon to go along with DJ Moore, Justin Fields, an offense that honestly is starting to shock some people, especially after winning against the Lions this weekend. But there's one guy I really like in this draft class as far as an interior presence. Jerzon Newton was probably one of my favorite defensive linemen last year. He decides to come back a lot like Oli Fashanu. I had a very high first-round grade on him last year. Was a big fan. The fact that he came back, faced a lot more double teams, but I felt like got better as a player. If there's a team looking for a defensive tackle in this draft like the Bears, you got to consider him at number 8, and that's where we're going. And then moving on to number 9, the Tennessee Titans, fresh off a shocker. We got a lot of losing teams that won this week that really helped my Raiders draft stock here. Well, we got the Titans coming off that 13 or 14-point comeback win against the Dolphins. They were down 13 with less than 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. If you missed it, ended up coming back and beating the Dolphins. So they're sitting at number 9 right here. I believe DeAndre's on a 1-year deal there. Not a lot of faith in Treylon Burks or probably the other guys, so you could look wide receiver here in Rome Odunze. As well, I don't know if Chig Okonkwo is the answer at tight end. So once again, Brock Bowers could also be an option, and you have an offensive line that is, well, it's Swiss cheese. It's got holes all over it. But the problem is the next best prospect at line, you're looking at Talise Fuaga, who is a right tackle from Oregon State. But in a shocker move here, Let's invest in Will Levis and get him a weapon. Not at wide receiver, but you got to take Brock Bowers. The guy's been the number one tight end the last 3 years in college football. If he was this talented at any other position, he'd be a lock to go top 5. I think the talent in this draft class could push him down a bit. But don't get mistaken. He's the best tight end. He's a top 10 tight end. Day one, if not. Honestly, could be looking at a Sam Laporta type emergence in the right situation where he gets fed because he did at Georgia and he was an absolute playmaking threat. The blocking will come with time, but as a receiving threat, you really can't get much better than Brock Bowers right now for a tight end. All right. Moving on to the Chargers. I know Zach, a guy in our fantasy football group, really likes them drafting a wide receiver or a tight end here. Oh, it looks like I got some comments updated. Andrew Corwine says Brock Bowers could be what everyone thought Kyle Pitts was supposed to be. I wouldn't be shocked if he went before this point in the draft. I completely agree. I think it's, for me right now, the way I'm mocking is we are basing it on team need more than anything. And what I view the team needs are, because I think we're going up here. Looking at the tight ends of these team, you have Cole Kmet here. While the Jets could use one, I think tackle is a more important position. The Raiders just drafted Michael Mayer, who's looking all right. Cole Kmet still. Logan Thomas, while he's on not the greatest contract number, we talked about it. I viewed those needs being more at tackle than, at tight end. And then I think you have Trey McBride here. Not going to happen. You clearly need a quarterback here, and you clearly need a quarterback and have Darren Waller here. So if the draft falls different, someone trades up for him, could very easily see Brock Bowers being a top 5 pick. But moving on to number 10 here, you have the Chargers, who says running back, wide receiver, tight end. I am a firm believer they don't go with a weapon in the first round. I have been very, very adamant on this stance. You got Quentin Johnston, who looks horrible, but you invested a first-round pick, so I think you need to keep that train going. Keenan Allen or Mike Williams are likely gone, but you still have Josh Palmer coming off the IR next year. You have Mike Williams coming off the IR. If he stays, it's going to be hard to get rid of him or trade him with the contract number that he has coming off of an injury. So, do they need a wide receiver? Yes, but if we take a look at the wide receiver class here, you've got some great guys in Rome Odunze, Keon Coleman, Emeka Ibuka, and Adonai Mitchell, and Xavier Leggett, who I all think could be very solid locks for the first round, pending how the offseason goes. However, you still got guys like Xavier Worley, Jalen Polk, Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Franklin's a great one. This Corley guy, I watched a little bit of film on him. He looks awesome. Johnny Wilson is a 6'7" threat. Brendan Rice is literally the son of the greatest receiver of all time in Jerry Rice. You have a lot of talent going down in this class here. Guys who maybe got overshadowed. Ricky Pearsall didn't have the greatest quarterback play, but is a phenomenal receiver. I could see him being a Keenan Allen type at the next level. You see him getting projected right now in the 4th or 5th round. So for that reason alone, and I know Zach might watch this back and hate me for it, but for that reason alone, we're going to take something of a position of need now that Khalil Mack is going to be likely gone, or Joey Bosa, or both, or we have to plan for their eventual edge defender. The edges they're getting old. I can't use English today properly, but they're getting old. So I really like Laitu Latu. However, I'm going to swerve you again. Kool-Aid McKinstry. The coolest name. Going to the team that I hate to say this with the coolest jerseys. But you need a cornerback. J.C. Jackson was a flop. Outside of Asante Samuel Jr. and Derwin James, that secondary is paper thin, and those guys have almost regressed a little bit this year. You need to take someone who's going to be a leader in that defense, like Pat Surtain is for the Broncos. You need to get your guy who's going to step up, and I think that is Kool-Aid McKinstry here. But moving on up, as you see, I am beelining it right for quarterback. Why? Because even after Desmond Ridder threw for 300 yards, I think a couple things happen here. The Falcons don't make the playoffs. They're in a top 10 pick position likely. And Arthur Smith hopefully gets fired. With Arthur Smith out the door, new coach, new regime, wanting to get their guy. And I think someone who can spread it to all the weapons of that offense beautifully, just like he did all the weapons he had in college, is Michael Penix Jr. Yes, Penix before Nix here. It's going to be a controversial decision to some. I really like Penix, even as a lefty. I think he's got great arm talent. He's got good athleticism. And he just showed he can perform in a high-volume offense. He can perform with weapons around him. He can dish it to him. So put him in Atlanta where they have a great running game. They have a good run-blocking O-line, and they have weapons who are underutilized in Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Go out there, get yourself a quarterback who can actually sling the rock and give yourself a chance to make the playoffs. Because if this team had a competent quarterback or a competent coach, they'd be a playoff team and they'd be running away with the NFC South right now. And it's sad to see. It is. That's why we're going to give them a QB here. Moving on to the Saints. Got a defensive line that's getting older. I know they lost a couple of guys last year in free agency. On top of that, Cameron Jordan's like 36 at the end of the season. So, well, I'm going to just guess you can't rely on him for too terribly much longer as far as the future of your franchise goes. Let's take a guy who should have been off the board a long time ago, and that's Laiatu Latu. An absolute monster. I do think he has the potential to fall. You're getting a little bit of Jalen Phillips syndrome here, and he has a very similar story. If you don't know Jalen Phillips for the Miami Dolphins, he played at UCLA, had to retire because of a neck injury, and then actually ended up coming back out, transferring to Miami, and ended up getting himself a first-round pick out of the deal. Miami drafted him, I think it was like 15th overall. But one concern was that medical history, and we have the same thing with Latu here. He had an injury that forced him to retire from Washington. He transferred down to UCLA, ended up being a dog there the last 2 years. So I love him as my defensive end or my edge one, but there is that concern over his neck, over his long-term health. So you could see maybe someone like Chop Robinson or Jared Verse go here. All of them are very close together. Like it's 1A, 1B, 1C as far as these three edge rushers go. So pick your poison. I'm just going to go with Laiatu Latu here because he's been my favorite on a consistency basis. And then moving on here, we might actually start to see some edge rushers go on a run here. I know I did this a little bit in a mock draft a little whiles back that I was just doing privately, but I do like the Seahawks to go up and grab someone like Chop Robinson. Only reason I like Chop a little bit more is I think that Jared Verse, his numbers dipped a little bit coming back for his senior year. He would have been a top 15 pick last year. Goes back, has another year, is a great part of that FSU defense that some people are saying should have made the college football playoff. But ultimately, his numbers weren't as good. So I think when people break out the ruler and they start really measuring the fine hairs between prospects, I think Chop Robinson maybe just showed a little bit more this year. That's where we go to number 14 to the Rams. A very, very interesting team. Very interesting this year because Stafford's getting old. I think we can all agree on that. Line isn't looking the best, but also I guess it's not horrendous. But you need defensive line help. Byron Young was a good draft pick, but Aaron Donald's getting older, and a lot of people think he's on his way out. Like, he could have retired last year after seeing this team this year not make the playoffs potentially. I think Donald could be out the door. You have a first-round pick in what feels like forever, so who knows if Sean McVay even keeps that around. But I do think this team does need some depth. They need on the defensive end, and that's where I said this run is going to go on edge rusher. I'm going to go 3 straight edge rushers. A little unlikely, but it's a December mock draft. So let's play with it. Boom, Jared Verse going up in there as we are getting up to the halfway point here. At number 15, we have the Broncos, a team who is looking hot right now and could very well be picking lower in this draft down here. But for right now, we have them at 15. And what needs do they have? I don't think quarterback's accurate. They have to be sticking with Russ a little while longer. Wide receiver, I would like it in this class, but honestly, what I think they're going to do is they're going to go out and get a wide receiver one like a Mike Evans, like someone who's more polished and trying to win now that they don't have to coach up. I think you keep Cortland Sutton. You trade Jerry Jeudy or you let him go, and you get a true wide receiver one. Sutton's the second. You still got Tim Patrick coming back, but, I mean, after back-to-back season-ending injuries, I don't know how much you trust him. But Marvin Mims is in that room. I think he's provided to be a good weapon. They've had other guys step up for him, so I just don't see wide receiver in the draft, first round, being a likely option here. I do think they do need someone to go opposite of Pat Surtain. I think they need someone to kind of have a little bit more speed. Surtain is a very smart corner, but at the end of the day, he's not the fastest corner, and I do think you need someone to kind of go opposite that on the other end of the field, and I really like Nate Wiggins from Clemson. He's someone who could possibly run in the low 4.3s, high 4.2s at the draft time, and really raise his draft stock. Even right now, they have him as a mid-first rounder, so I'm going to snag him up for the Broncos. Boo, boo, boo. As we move on. Bum, bum, bum. Let's see what else we got going around here. Saw it a little bit too late, but another member, Zach, in our group did say the Raiders jumped to number 1. I will do that at some point, but I can't mock every mock draft of the Raiders getting Caleb Williams. Then I'll just start to believe it. Second first-round pick for Arizona. Unfortunately, this is starting to look a lot better for them with C.J. Stroud getting a concussion. Nico Collins is out for a good bit. Tank Dell's out for the entire year. So what was a feel-good story in Houston is starting to unravel a little bit, and it kind of sucks to see. And the Cardinals obviously having that first-round pick. After the trade last year, the Cardinals were at number 3. Traded back with the Texans to, I believe it was number 11. And then the Texans traded up right after drafting C.J. Stroud and took Will Anderson Jr. So you're seeing the fruits of that labor here. I think that was a smart trade for both teams. The Cardinals get another first here. Houston obviously landing with both of those picks. Franchise quarterback, franchise edge rusher. Like, you can't argue that that was a win for Houston. Here, though, the Cardinals, if you remember, we did go Marvin Harrison Jr., or else there's still some great receivers here. We got Roma Dunze that they could possibly pick up, Keon Coleman, Emeka Egbuka. But this team needs a lot of talent. They needs all over the defense, all over the offense. They did invest in Paris Johnson last year as an offensive tackle. And so I think that they move Paris to the left side where he's a little bit more comfortable. And you take one of the best right tackles to come out in recent memory in Talise Fuaga coming out of Oregon State. And then next up on deck, the Buffalo Bills. Someone grab the table. Ooh, any community picks here? I feel like I'm starting to really rush through this, and the picks are just coming off like hot fire. But, I'm open to the people. Tell me what you want. What do you think Buffalo goes with? My strong inclination is receiver. I really like Roma Dunze here, but let's see what happens. Ugh, I never knew how exhausting just straight talking was. You usually have to rely on other people for this. All right. Well, let's lock it in. They need another wide receiver. Gabe Davis hasn't proven to be that dude, and apparently Josh Allen needs all the weapons in the world, especially now that Stephon Diggs is getting older and wants to be traded every other week. So Roma Dunze locking it in at 17. Great value pick. And then moving on to the Bungles. Season-ending injury to Joe Burrow. Everybody thought that they were counted out, but who knew that Big Dick Jake Browning was coming in for the kill off the top rope. We'll see what happens, though. We'll see what happens in the rest of the year. The Bengals, though, is really starting to surprise some people. I would have really liked Brock Bowers if they would have started tanking and kind of got to the range to select him. I think they are a popular team to trade up and get him. But right now, you need some tackle talent. Ooh, what about this big boy right here? You got J.C. Latham, 6'6", 335, coming out of Bama. He's a right tackle, started the past 2 years for him. You know what? I like J.C. Latham. Let's go ahead and rock it. Badoom. Moving on to the Green Bay Packers next. Interesting team here. Obviously losing last night to the Giants. They were on a bit of a heater. Still very much in playoff contention. Jordan Love is looking like a first-year starter. He's had some potential flashes. He's had some rough games. Literally the last 2 weeks are examples of that. He goes out and he beats Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and then he loses to Tommy DeVito and the Giants. Like, there's a bipolarity here that you're still working out with a young quarterback, but obviously the Packers are in good position. Running back probably doesn't happen for their needs in the first round. I could see a tackle. Defensive interior does need some help. I know edge rushers, they have a couple of good ones there. Rashawn Gary's been playing well. They still have Preston Smith. So I don't know if they really want to go with the depth here, but also we know the old adage about the Packers ever drafting offense. So safety could be a big need too, though. Let's see here. What do we think? That's too bad. Good old Pops, stepdad Eric, is working right now, or else he'd be here to give me a pick. Let's take a look. You know, I really like this guy Cameron Kinchens out of Miami. I think he's played, he's played great ball the past couple of years. A little bit of a drop off in that PFF grade as opposed to last year. So not as good in coverage, but still a solid run defender. Missing some tackles, but I think Miami's defense had a hard setback this year. And if you need a guy who can kind of bump and thump, get nasty inside, let's go Cameron Kinchens for the Packers. Oh, man, as I speak, Eric pops into the chat. Was that the move, Eric? Was that the move? You got to tell me there. Oh, man, just missed you. Just missed it, too. That is funny. That is funny. I was like, man, where you at? And then, boom, speaking shell appears. All righty. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it looks like they need everything. Yeah, pretty much offensive tackle isn't needed and wide receiver, but they could need wide receiver if Mike Evans ends up leaving this year. However, I do think they stick with Baker at quarterback. You got a good thing rolling there. He's not the best quarterback, but I think they got him like 2 years, $12 million. Stupid good deal for backup quarterback money for your starting quarterback. They do need an edge presence, though. They really do need edge presence. So I think Dallas Turner, who's possibly the most athletic lineman in this class as far as edge rushers go, from Bama, kind of got overshadowed a little bit by Will Anderson Jr. last year at Bama. But he's a solid pick, solid player, has great athletic upside. We're talking a guy who could be like a low 4.5, high 4.4 type runner, and that's going to get him some attention at the combine. Moving on to the back half here, we got the Colts at 21. Oh, interesting year for them, though. Kind of been soldiers of fortune. You know, getting some good matchups, winning some close games, probably that they shouldn't have, dare I say. But they got their quarterback of the future. They do need some help, though, in the wide receiver room. As much as I like Josh Downs, as much as I like Michael Pittman, they need a little bit more talent for that young man to throw to. And I think Keon Coleman's a great wide receiver one that you get in there. Maybe, put me on the stake if I'm wrong here, but I like wide receiver for the Colts. And the Vikings, a team I think that almost certainly has to look quarterback of the future, not to run through these picks too fast, but plain and simple, if Bo Nix is here, you take him. To the Steelers, who I think will be picking much higher in the draft. They are on a bit of a slide right now. Very easily could lose that wild card seeding and fall out of the playoffs, especially with Mitch Trubisky starting over Kenny Pickett. Not saying that that's a huge talent jump, but it is still, I think, a notable talent jump. You at least won with Kenny Pickett versus some of these other teams, and then they've lost literally to the two of the worst teams in the NFL the past couple of weeks. So I don't have a lot of faith in the Steelers going forward. They do need some help on defense. Linebacking core, there's not a lot of talent in this class. And I also hesitate to take Cooper DeJean because he did suffer a late season leg injury that's going to keep him mostly out of the pre-draft process. So I don't think he's going to be at the combine. He might not run into his pro day. You're talking about a guy who could honestly, for all intents and purposes, does he have any eligibility left? He could return to Iowa just because that leg injury might have taken him out of the first round, and he was probably my cornerback 2 or 3. But I do think they need a cornerback there. I do think they need some help in the secondary. I really like this guy, Tyler Nubin, out of Minnesota, though. If we're going to bring up his card here, look, a phenomenal jumping coverage. We're talking a guy, though, who had starter-ish snaps the last couple of years and then really exploded. He's playing deep. He plays in the box some. You can put him up at slot. You're talking a versatile defensive weapon. Obviously, touchdowns allowed 1, but he has 5 interceptions on the year. Complete ball hawk, 21% forced incompletion rate. The missed tackle rate, not the best, but you can see it get a little bit better from 10%. But that's what we're looking at right there. This 90.7 coverage grade that shows he's doing his job. He's back there. In Minnesota, they played in the worst offense in division in the Big Ten West, but there were some defensive games. And if you turn on the tape, Tyler Newman was a stud. So let's go ahead and send him to the Steel City. And the pick coming back for Deshaun Watson. Yet another first-round pick for the Browns that they have lost for this man. The Texans are going to be on the clock here. I don't know about agreeing with that wide receiver for need. I think once Nico and Tank are healthy, you still got some depth there. That could be an option for us, though. Defensive line has been playing really good. Their defense is good. I just don't know. A lot of people don't respect who they have there in the building. They kind of think they're getting coached up a little bit as opposed to actual talent. One guy I really do like is Leonard Taylor III. If we look the last couple of years, one thing that's stayed consistent, he's got a little excited this year. Isn't the best in the run defense, but we're still seeing a great pass rush grade. 14.7 win rate on the inside. That's a solid number that you like to see. And you're seeing a guy who, produces with hurries here. Isn't getting to the quarterback as well as last year, but you're still seeing him make an impact on that defense, and he can play A-gap, B-gap. He even slides outside from time to time. So some up and down games, but I think Leonard Taylor, if we open his card back up again, prototypical tackle, 6'3", 305. He's a young kid that you can still coach up, and I think D'Amico Ryans is really going to like that. So we're going to put him in Houston. All right, the quickest pick we're going to make today, wide receiver for the Chiefs. Who we got? So that is who they need. Now, Emeka Egbuka is going to get a lot of praise from Ohio State. And Adonai Mitchell is in the college football playoff, so we could see him raise that stock. But I truly think out of this group right here who we're seeing, the wide receiver one out of these men remaining is actually Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. And I'm going to show you why. Great receiving grade this year. Drop rate of 2.7%, so he's got sturdy hands. 50% catch rate you want to see a little bit better, especially being 6'3", 227. But look at this. This man dominates against man coverage. Dominates. And you don't find that a lot with receivers right away. A bit of a one-year wonder and breakout here, But I think you're looking at a big guy who's got a lot of speed and is going to fly up draft boards after the combine. He could be a 4.3 runner at 6'3", 227, But for that reason, I think Patrick Mahomes sees the yard after catch and the break tackle ability, sees what he's been missing in Tyreek Hill, and goes out and gets a big version of that. Give me Xavier Leggett for the Chiefs. Hate it as a Raiders fan. You got to love it if you're a Chiefs fan, though. 26 as we're moving into the final countdown. Terrible trumpet sound, terrible singing, but maybe a great pick for the Jags here. Team is on the rise, but it's just a couple of things that kind of still need. Gyron, what is up, my dude? Welcome. Another Broncos fan hopping in here to watch. If I'm going to recap here, we gave your Broncos Nate Wiggins out of Clemson at the 15th pick here. So in my personal opinion, I love that pick for the Broncos. I think he pairs up with PS2. Ends up giving you guys a phenomenal cornerback room. Also that Jalen McMillan, too, has been an absolute stud. So I think if you get a three-headed monster there, pairing him with Justin Simmons and, everything else that secondary has to offer, could be good for the Broncos. But 26 here, moving on to the Jaguars at 26. It says guard, center, edge defender, or defensive back. I do think outside of Josh Allen, they need some help. I don't know if Trayvon Walker is going to be that guy. And also it seems like they're using him in the hybrid role you kind of saw in college, too. He plays a little bit of outside linebacker. He plays a little bit of edge rusher. You get someone like Braylon Trice here, just to open up the book on him. You got 2 great seasons at Washington, and he is a defensive end. Boom, outside tackle, he is playing on the D end there. 6'4", 274, more in your traditional defensive end kind of mold, I think, and that's why we're going to select him here to go to Jacksonville with the 26th pick. We'll grade this afterwards, we'll kind of see what's going on, but moving on to the 27th pick, the surprise team of the year, the Detroit Lions. What do they need? Everybody needs a guard and a center down here. I feel like that's just kind of average, but this is a team who I do think their cornerback room needs a little bit more help. But also the offense is just fire. The offense is amazing. I just don't know if I have a defensive interior lineman that I would pick over cornerback here. Nope. Let's go to that cornerback page. We're gonna hold off on Cooper DeJean again. But the couple of guys we do have here, we'll start with Kalen King, someone who last year probably with Joey Porter Jr. would have almost made an argument for first-round consideration. This year, though, as you're seeing, kind of a drop-off. I mean, he's had some rough games against Ohio State. Can't blame him. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. Michigan, Maryland, Indiana. Finished the year a little bit stronger, but with this drop-off, I don't know if he's a first-round corner. Someone who has made waves, though, is Terrion Arnold from Alabama. 5 picks on the year, 2 touchdowns allowed, but we're seeing an 86 coverage grade, a 91.1 run defense grade. I mean, plain and simple, this guy's just balling. I mean, you're talking 2 years at Alabama here, playing on the outside, a little bit of slot corner this year, so he has that versatility. But at 6 foot 196, I mean, he's going to be an outside guy. Absolutely can run with some fast receivers. So that's why I actually really like either Terrion Arnold or Kamari Laster here. We'll show you his card here before I make my pick. No picks, but also no touchdowns allowed. Someone who kind of started opposite Keely Ringo last year on the outside. You see some slot activity, gets up in the box from time to time. You can blitz him. Pretty good overall grading here across the year. But Bama, baby. Terrion Arnold going to the Detroit Lions. Well, let's see. Updated any comments? Nope. We're getting lonely here at the end. I don't blame it. Moving on to 28, though. The Eagles, who need, I'd say linebacker until they pick up Shaq Leonard. If they could re-sign him, that would be a good get in their backfield. Plus, I think their linebacking room's just hurt. It's not so much a pressing need. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, great wide receivers in that room. Do they need a third wide receiver? And is this a place where you pick up someone like Emeka Egbuka? Or do you give yourself a slot corner to possibly go along with Darius Slay and James Bradbury? Where are the slot corners at? Where are the slots at? Where are the slots at? Another defensive sleeper I like here, Quinion Mitchell, is going to be an absolute dog. But we're also starting to favor cornerback a little bit, and a lot of pundits really like them going wide receiver. So let's just do the stereotypical Ohio State wide receiver in the first round pick here, Emeka Egbuka. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins. O-line is a need. I think you need some athletic linemen there, though. Jay, sorry, goddamn customers. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the chat. Let's do, we'll stop here at the Dolphins. Let's do a little bit of a recap for anybody popping in here, Jace. So at the first pick, you can blame Rick Burleson for this one. We had the Giants trading up to number 1 with the Bears to go ahead and get Caleb Williams and say toodaloo to the Daniel Jones era. Then we went Drake May to the New England Patriots, Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals, Ole Fashanu to the Washington Commanders. Bears pick up another receiving option here. Yes, that's what I said, Jace. That's what I said. Even with their huge contract they gave DJ. But I was trying to get a little parody here, give the boys what they wanted, and Rick was the only one who chimed in pretty feverishly on this beforehand. So, and Andrew Corbine next to trade for me from 2-1 for the Patriots. So here we are. I don't want to homer pick the Raiders trading up to 1 every single mock. We'll do it next time, though. But moving on here, we have the Raiders picking, the Bears picking Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels to the Raiders, Joe Alt to the Jets, Drazon Newton to the Bears at number 8, Brock Bowers to the Titans, giving Will Levis a weapon, Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Chargers. Rick is on crack. I was honestly expecting you to do that. Yeah, I was thinking about it. So, but number 11, Michael Penix to the Falcons. Number 12, Laitu Latu to the New Orleans Saints. Then you got Chop Robinson going to Seattle. Jared Verse to L.A. I did have you Broncos picking up Nate Wiggins, an absolute speed demon and coverage ball hawk from Clemson. I really like him. Number 16, Talise Fuaga. Going to the Cardinals, protecting Kyler's right side. They shift Paris Johnson over, and they get rid of I think it's Melvin Beckham or whatever. Yeah, they get rid of DJ Humphries. They get rid of DJ Humphries and cut his money off the books. Rome Odunze at number 17, getting the Bills another weapon at wide receiver. J.C. Latham, right tackle, to go along with that Bengals offensive line. Cameron Kinchins going to the Packers at 19. Dallas Turner, edge rusher, going to the Bucks at 20. Keon Coleman adding to that deep receiving room, but still kind of needs a true number one outside of Pittman. And I think they just load Richardson up with weapons at this point. We got Bo Nix at 22 to the Vikings. I think they definitely need a QB of the future, if not to start now. Bo Nix fits both those roles. He could use some time, but also at the same time, I think he could start day one if Kirk is moved on from or is still hurt. You never know how those old guy injuries go. So I like Bo there. We got Tyler Nubin to the Steelers, getting him a good solid coverage safety to go along with Minkah Fitzpatrick, allows Minkah to roll the field a little bit more. We got Leonard Taylor, strong interior presence going along with guys like Jonathan Grenard and Will Anderson Jr. down there in Houston. You got Xavier Leggett, one of my favorite guys who's going to rise in this draft class, going to the Chiefs. I got Braylon Trice going to the Jags at 26, giving him some edge help. A little bit more of a sturdy edge, allows Trayvon Walker to play more outside linebacker, rushing linebacker. And then last two picks, you got Terrion Arnold, cornerback, going to Detroit, and Emeka Ibuka going to the three-headed monster in Philadelphia, giving Jalen something to really throw at. But yeah, moving on to 29, we have the Dolphins. Who do we go with here? They say tight end. And who is our tight end two in this draft class, you ask? Well, it is Mr. Jatavion Sanders, who is an absolute dog coming out of Texas. 6'4", 243, but he's a thumper, man. If you watch this dude play, absolute dog running the ball. I just think the first round's a little early for him. You also have your stereotypical Iowa tight end right here, Luke Lachey. Or Lachey. I don't know how to pronounce that yet, so we'll figure it out. There's time for this. But at 29 for the Miami East. I don't know if Amarius Mims at 340 fits what the Dolphins are trying to do with speed. But I do think Dolphins go O-line. But which O-lineman do we go, Jace? Oh, actually, this is what I like here. You got to look between here. Zone run scheme, zone run grade. I like Graham Barton. A little bit more athletic lad at 315. If you want to consider 315 light for a lineman, then that is light for a lineman. But Lenny McLinney face. Yes, Lenny McLinney face. Thank you, Jace, for clearing up that pronunciation for me. We are going to go with Graham Barton, who he has to be a white dude from Duke. That's no doubt there. He's almost has to be declaring for the draft, considering they just lost their coach too. So, but moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. Where's Tyler at? See, he's at work right now. Our boy Tyler would be in the chat, just up my ass on this. Oh, no, never mind. I skipped over Rick. I'm sorry, Rick. Baby, come back. Are you still here? Nope. Rick left, but that's fine. Because the Cowboys are going with something here. They are going with something. I don't know about cornerback. Could be an interesting one because you only got Stephon Gilmore's old. Deron Bland is coming on, and you have Trayvon Diggs coming back. So corner is an interesting pick. Let's see what else we have here in the garbage pail. I don't think there's a running back worth taking in the first round in this draft class, so they won't even start until the next round. Big fan of the Cowboys adding somebody to that room, though, unless they really like Rico and Pollard going forward. Ooh, this kind of screams Cowboys. You have a legacy pick in Chris Jenkins, whose dad also named Chris Jenkins. Solid stuffer from Michigan. Not a guy who's going to be too sexy. He's going to be, penetrating your backfields too deep, but he just gets in there right at the entrance, and he just hangs out. Little up and down here on the year, but I really like Chris Jenkins for Michigan, and he's going to be someone who's going to have a lot to prove in the college football playoff. And they did draft a first-rounder from Michigan last year, too. Could pair the boys back up together like the Eagles did. Is that something we're looking at? Who knows? Actually, God, did we talk ourselves into it? I think I did. Let's reach all the way down here. I have Chris Jenkins more of like 37 on my board, so this isn't as much of a reach as PFF is making it out to be. Let's go Chris Jenkins from Minnesota. Chris Jenkins. And moving on, I think this one's pretty obvious. There's one glaring need that the Niners have had all year long. All year long. And that's cornerback. So the guy I didn't pick last time, we're going to pick him now. We're going to go Kamari Lassiter. Another guy who I think is going to make himself into first-round conversation. If no other reason than he is a Georgia defensive player, and those are a pretty hot commodity here recently. Jerry will take a wide receiver. Oh, Jace, you should have told me. Ravens are on the clock. Bum, bum, bum. And currently right now they are projected as the Super Bowl champions. 32nd pick. Where do they go? Zay Flowers added to a great wide receiver room, but OBJ is getting a little bit older. No one outside of Zay is really a certain option. So do they back-to-back first-round wide receivers with that need? I'm going to give this a second for Jace to actually reply here. What's the final pick, Jace? We will wait your reply. Gallup and Cooks could very well be gone in Dallas, though. Which is hard to say because I think, Brandon Cooks deserves a home. Like, that man is the best rental that the NFL has had the past, fucking 7 years. And no one wants to give him a permanent home. No one wants to love him. But that's because he's, now like a 30-year-old wide receiver, so his time's kind of passed. What is the final pick? The final pick. If you joined us or have watched through the entire thing, thank you. And I'm sorry you're bored today. I was very bored, so that's why we did this. Sorry, I have a customer in front of me. Oh, no. Sad day. Damn customers. Oh, boy. Well, we'll pick the last pick of the draft then for you. It says they need wide receiver, defensive line, and cornerback. I just can't not add a weapon. And I think you got your short guy in Zay Flowers. Go out and get yourself the long-term speedster with some height and Adonai Mitchell. I'm going to wait for some last-minute possible jump-ins, but that's fine. Jay Simon says, I haven't had enough time to do draft research to give any valuable input. That's fine. I barely have myself. Who are we kidding? I've done a lot. This contested catch rate, we're not liking, though. Yeah, let's find a good wide receiver for the boy here, huh? Troy Franklin could also be an option. How is Johnny Wilson at 6'7" not have a better contested catch rate? It's bonkers. No, you know what? Let's do it. Adonai Mitchell, last pick of the round, finishing up the draft here. It's not actually grading my draft because, I didn't have individual team picks or anything. But here is the final standings. Let's recap it one more time for the man and woman watching at home. Just kidding. I love you guys. But for the final recap here. Boom, boom, boom. Caleb Williams, number 1 to the Giants. Drake May, number 2 to the Patriots. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 3 to the Cardinals. Number 4, you got Oli Fashanu to the Commanders. Number 5 is going to be Malik Neighbors to the Bears. You got Jaden Daniels going 6 to my Raiders. Number 7, the New York Football Jets. I picked Joe Alt. Number 8, you got Jerzon Newton for the Bears. going on in there from Illinois to Illinois. He won't have to move very far. Number 9, Brock Bowers going to Tennessee. Number 10, coolest name to the coolest jerseys. You got Kool-Aid McKinstry to the San Diego Los Angeles Chargers. Number 11, we got Michael Penix. To the Falcons. Number 12, we got Laiatu Latu to the New Orleans Saints. Number 13, Chap Robinson to the Seattle Sea Chickens. You got number 14, the Rams, who have a first-round pick since the Clinton administration, get Jared Verse from Florida State. Number 15, you got the Broncos picking Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Number 16, the Cardinals got Talise Fuaga and another cool name to another warm place, going at right tackle for them. Number 17, Rome Odunze for the Buffalo Bills from Washington. Michael Penix Jr. is going to miss his top option as he goes all the way across the league. Number 18, the Bengals get J.C. Latham, tackle from Bama. I'd be wigging out. Ha, ha, ha. That's a great pun, Jace. I should have thought about that one. I'm a failure. Number 19, we have Cameron cooking in the kitchens for the Green Bay Packers. At number 20, we have Dallas Turner. Is that his real name? Who knows? But he's going to Tampa Bay, not Dallas. At number 21, we have Keon. I'm not Gary Coleman, going to the Indianapolis Colts. Number 22, quick fix, Bo Nix is going to go ahead and either back up or secede Kirk Cousins. I'm tired at this point. Love you, boys. Number 23, we have Tyler Nubin from Minnesota going to the Steel City. At number 24, Leonard Taylor, the third, going on down to Houston via Miami. Xavier Leggett from Debo University down in South Carolina is going to go to the Chiefs at 25. 26, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars grabbing Braylon Trice from Washington. 27, the Detroit Lions are saying, hey, Arnold, why don't you come on over here, Mr. Terrion Arnold coming on from Bama. 28, we have the name I'm going to continuously mess up, Emeka Egbuka, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. He immediately becomes the wide receiver 3 and the wide receiver with the hardest name to pronounce. Number 29, we have Graham Barton going from Duke University to the Miami Dolphins. Number 30, Chris Jenkins going from Michigan to the Dallas Cowboys, just like his boy Maisie Smith did last year. Kamari Lassiter from Georgia is going to go on out and help that San Francisco secondary. And finally, we have Adonai Mitchell going to the Baltimore Ravens, helping out Lamar. If you're watching this video, thank you so much for supporting us after. If you supported the live, I really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping on in, giving me something to do. I love you guys, and as always, do you.